Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer for Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. Thank you for joining me today. It's good to be with you. We've got a lot to discuss. As you know, um, the Las Vegas Raiders have selected a quarterback. It's going to be Gardner Minshew, and we're going to get into all of it today. We're going to talk about how it happened, why it happened. I had several people ask me, were you surprised? I was a little, not a lot, but a little. We've been telling you throughout camp it was a dead heat and said we had been told if it was a dead heat, the tie would go to Aiden. And that's what we were told. And that's why we've been telling you all along, but kept telling you dead heat, dead heat, dead heat, dead heat. It was a dead heat. It was very, very close. And last night, Aiden O'Connell just throws a terrible pass, a pick six. And although that was not the only reason, I'm not saying it was, that was the last indelible thing in their head. And so they're going to go with Gardner Minshew. We're going to talk about it today. We're going to get into it a lot of how does it approach the team? How does this impact the team? Is the sky falling? Is it not falling? I think there's a lot of very germane things that need to be discussed when you look at the quarterback battle. First of all, I think there was disappointment in both. In fact, I'm not going to say I think there was disappointment in both quarterbacks. I think they wanted to see more out of Gardner. This is a guy that had been to a Pro Bowl last year, had played well. They paid him tens of millions of dollars, and he had a lot more experience. And so he came into the Raiders and threw a lot of interceptions early, but didn't, I say a lot, that's not fair to Gardner. Threw more interceptions than Aiden early, and that's very important to mention, but then he cleaned it up. Now, you saw in the Minnesota Viking games, I talked to you about a couple times, he's rolling to his right under pressure. He starts going backwards, back, 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 back. And then when he threw the ball away, he's 20, 25 yards behind the line of scrimmage. That drives him crazy. You saw last night against Dallas. He's rolling, then he turns around, tries to reverse field. That was a dangerous. There's a lot of risk with Gardner, but there's also a lot of reward. Let's be fair. There's a lot of risk, a lot of reward. He can create. Now, with that being said, with Aiden, they knew what they were getting in Aiden, a young quarterback, unproven. I told you all off season. Do they think he's Kenny Stabler? They don't know. There wasn't enough evidence to say that he couldn't maybe eventually be an NFL QB1, but there wasn't enough evidence to say to them that he was not that. So they rode with it. Now, it puts him in this position. I want to point out a couple things that I think are very important. In camp, I have been to absolutely every single day. And I can tell you that Luke Getzey's offense is extremely creative, and I very much like it. It you cannot call what he did in Chicago anything other than an unmitigated disaster. That's fair. That's fair. But he also had bosses in Chicago where he didn't get to do everything that he wanted to do. That's fair as well. Prior to Chicago, he had a meteoric rise and was very, very well thought of. Many people thought he was going to be the next bright offensive genius that would become a head coach. Chicago derailed it. The Raiders brought him in. More on Getsy in a little bit. Then you've got Tom Telesco. He goes down with the Bolts for many, many years. They're a team that's kind of good, not kind of, they were good, but never could get over the hump. Then last year they were in a salary cap nightmare when the season ended. I believe that Tom would probably disagree with me on that, and that's fine. But talking to people around the NFL, I think that's a fair analysis. They were in salary cap hell. Now, there's nothing wrong. Lots of general managers have put everything into, okay, this is our chance right now. This is our season to make a run. Boy, he made a bad decision on a head coach and made a decision to go on a run with a bad coach. That's fair. I think he did a ton of good and nowhere near all of it on him. Now, Tom Telesco is a man of honor. He's not going to trash his former employers. But people inside of the Chargers have told me there were a lot of really dumb financial decisions that weren't Tom Telesco's. We'll leave it there. I'm going to come back to him in a minute. And then you have Antonio Pierce, no pro football coordinator experience, jumps from position coach to head coach, essentially with the prompting of the players who inspired the fan base. Now, I supported that. I 100% supported the hiring of AP. So I'm not in any way distancing myself or flip flopping. 100% supported it. It was the right move. Where are you going with this, Hondo? Because this all ties in to the quarterback battle. I can tell you this decision was made by Luke Getsy, Tom Telesco, and Antonio Pierce. This wasn't a decision where Mark Davis came in. This was those guys making the decision. And they're going to have to live with it, good or bad. You may remember last year when Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler went and got Jimmy Garoppolo. I made the statement. It's all out there. You can watch it. You don't get rid of Derek Carr to get Jimmy Garoppolo. They did. At which time I said they deserve the benefit of the doubt. They're the ones putting their careers on Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, I don't believe that this is, as a matter of fact, I know this is not as profound as Jimmy Garoppolo. They're not risking their careers on Gardner because they still have Aiden. But it is a very important decision that they made and they're going to live with. Now, there's a couple scenarios here and I want to walk through them and then we're going to go back and talk more about the decision. Okay. The Chargers have a very brutal defense. Nobody knows that better than Tom Telesco. Okay. Their offense, even if he plays, is going to have a Justin Herbert who's not 100%. So you go down there to LA, to Allegiant South, to SoFi, and you go with your proven guy with experience who gets the big money. Week 2, you go to Baltimore. You go to Baltimore. Tough place to play against a team with a good offense, not great, good, with a very good defense and good coaching. In all 3 areas, they're good. And in special teams. In all 4 areas, they're good, 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 and good. And good, yeah. So then you've got to look at it from another perspective. And this is a big one. AP has twice now talked about wanting to get off on a fast start in the first quarter. I believe it was my buddy Ed Graney from the Review Journal that asked him today, you keep mentioning a quarter. And he's like, well, that's because I think in quarters. I'm going to say this right now. And I would have said it if Aiden got the job. And it's not Hondo guessing. If one of these guys, whoever it was, came out and just absolutely wet the bed, and I mean, it's a disastrous start for the Raiders. 1-3, 0-4. I mean, just disastrous. I could totally see, with no hesitation, them going to Aiden. Then all of a sudden, Aiden comes in a situation where there's no pressure. Essentially no pressure. I'm not saying that this is what Honda would do. I'm telling you all the scenarios that went into thinking about this decision. Here is what I know to be factual. The Luke Getsy offense, I am very impressed with. Impressed with it. It's the same one he ran in Green Bay that won him a Super Bowl. But they don't have Aaron Rodgers. They don't have him. Okay? So the Raiders make the decision. This is the guy we want to give the football with to start the season. And that's where they're going to go. There are a few things, and I'm going to actually be writing an article tomorrow that's going to drop at noon Eastern, 9 o'clock out here on the West Coast. And I really encourage you to make sure that you read it. about 10 facts about this team I know after 4 weeks of camp. And I'm going to have a very important comment on especially one of the facts I don't think fans are thinking about. And I'll get into that tomorrow. So please make sure you read that. But anyways, back to the current quarterback situation. They believe it was so close, and it wasn't, it was just there, that, okay, tough start, a lot of road games. Let's go with the veteran. Now, here's the whole point. And I think most of you who are reasonable will agree with this. Nobody's opinion matters. Mine doesn't. Yours doesn't. Gardner's doesn't. Aiden's doesn't. Max Crosby's doesn't. Mark Davis doesn't. Those three made the decision. And so now they get to live with how this season plays out. Now they are going to live with, this was all of our choices. How does it play out? If Gardner does well, they're heroes. If he doesn't do well, do they ride that horse too long and then go to Aiden when it's too little too late? Or do they go to Aiden and he fails as well? In which case, then there's plenty of criticism because they're the brain trust in charge of picking the quarterback. And so that's where it sits today. I got flooded the moment I tweeted out what was going to happen and the internet exploded, flooded with a bunch of emails. And I'm going to be doing emails here pretty soon, but asking multiple questions. And I'm going to answer all those when it comes to the quarterback battle and all of that. But people, this is it. The Raiders season is over. I don't believe that. First of all, I know it's not factually true, and I know nobody was saying that, but they're saying, "Oh, here we go, another 2-win team, another 3-win team." Not, I don't think it's fair. Here's why: the defense has been extremely vanilla. There are some new wrinkles in this defense you have not seen, and there's some old things that they did last year and did very well that they have not done either. They've just kept it straight vanilla. So, do I think Raider fans should be concerned about how teams have run the football the first 2 games? Concerned, okay, maybe, but knowing what they haven't done, I would say to you, I'm not concerned about it. Now, I know I'm not a fan, but my job is to assimilate and then dissipate the information to you. I don't think there's a reason right now to be worried about the defense. I'm just being blunt honest. You may choose to, and that's great. I don't think you're a bad person if you do. I'm just around it. I'm talking to the people. I know the changes. I know the twerks, and I tweaks too, and I know the how vanilla the defense was. Now, LA wants to run the football, and we know Baltimore wants to run the football. So if we're sitting here and I'm doing my complete recap from Baltimore, and the recap is literally about the Raiders, the first 2 games have been run all over, then you should have reason to panic. That's not the case right now. Again, welcome to do what you want. I personally don't. I don't think the defense is going to be an issue there. They got to tighten it up. But again, vanilla, not showing a lot of new stuff or even some stuff from last year. I'm not as concerned about that. I know Luke Getsy's system. I know play calling last night, even in situations where normal football games, you're looking at down and distance and point of the game. They did some things, and I had some people email and ask and just say, it doesn't seem like he understands. No, he totally does. But remember, in a preseason game, they're looking for certain scenarios. They're looking for certain situations. You saw them go for it on some 4th downs. They wouldn't have gone for it in the regular season, but they wanted to look at some 4th down plays, give some guys to show some mojo. So that is the reality of where the Raiders are right now. The quarterback position is the most important position in all of football. How Tom Telesco, Luke Getsy, and Antonio Pierce handle that position is going to say everything. If their defense keeps them in every game and it just turns out to be like last year, that's not going to be good. If the defense, and if the offense does something and they get to 10 wins, okay, they look good. They look like heroes. It's all now, though, their decision. They own it. They're a team. And so, some people have asked me, do you think this was a Mark Davis decision? No. But it was a Luke Getsy, Antonio Pierce, and Tom Telesco decision. And they would all tell you that it was a three-headed decision. So they own it now. Now, I went back and I'm going to reiterate this. I told you when Ziegler and McDaniels wanted Garoppolo, they have a right. They're putting their careers on the line, and they paid the price. I don't think these guys' career is on the line with Gardner. But if both guys fail, I don't think that there's a chance. Excuse me. I don't think that there is an overwhelming chance that all of them get fired next year. But then they're going to have to go to Mark Davis and they're going to have to make a presentation. All right, the team got better. We picked up Bowers. We want to go trade for this veteran, sign this free agent, or go get this rookie. And here's where we think we're going. Again, I'll address a lot more about that in the article coming tomorrow. But at the end of the day, the decision's been made. Gardner is your starting quarterback. That's fascinating to me. I understand both sides of the coin. I understand why they said all offseason a Gardner has to beat Aiden. I understand, and if you followed our coverage, I've told you that Aiden's had the last week in maybe even 8 or 10 days in Costa Mesa, or 8 days. There were some issues with turnovers. I told you that. We've seen it. And there has been some turnovers in camp. And then that big one yesterday. So I totally get the scenario. It doesn't matter what I would have done or wouldn't have done. It doesn't matter what you think, because those three made their decision and they're going to own it. So here's now the place where the Raiders are. I talked about this earlier in the year. Let's assume Gardner succeeds. Great. They've got him on a very favorable deal as a starter for next year. Then they may say, okay, we're happy with Aiden as a backup. So they remain in a good place financially. Let's say that Gardner succeeds, but Aiden O'Connell just doesn't get off a high center. Okay. They may keep him, make him their third quarterback. Then do they go draft a guy? If Gardner proves to be the guy, that's exactly what I think would happen. Or if Gardner fails and Aiden fails, then do you see them make a move for Aaron Rodgers? I find that one interesting for a lot of reasons, but it's way putting the cart before the horse. There's no reason to talk about that. But do they go look at other places? I've had emails today from people saying, why don't they, go trade Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew for Hendon Hooker or go get Joe Milton? Well, first of all, those teams are very happy with their backups and they're playing very, very well. So why would they trade a guy they got and like for a guy that you don't? I think the Raiders are doing the right thing. And I'm not going to change. If I say something, I stand by it. I think they did the right thing selecting a Brock Bowers. I think they did the right thing going and signing somebody like a Gardner and letting this quarterback situation for this season pan out and then have all the expectation in the world on them next year. If they end up having to go with a rookie next year, that's not a reason to be hopeful. And that's a reason for them to know they're dead square in the sights of losing their jobs. But if they go get a big veteran and pick a rookie, that's a whole different story. So at the end of the day, that's where you have to take where the Raiders are. They start with Gardner Minshew. So that mitigates your risk a little better. His feet against good defenses, maybe they can do something. But also against defenses, he likes a lot. He likes a lot to be the gunslinger. And if he does that and doesn't have turnovers, no problem. But if he does have the turnovers, it is going to turn Allegiant Stadium into we want Aiden, we want Aiden, we want Aiden. I'm going to say something, and it's not against Getsy, Telesco, or Pierce at all. The Raiders did not want a quarterback controversy. They are fully embroiled in one, whether they publicly admit it or not. If Gardner Minshew does not come out and blow the roof off the top, anytime he makes a mistake, there's going to be clamoring for his backup. And remember, you have a locker room that's absolutely sick and tired of losing. And so I don't care if it was Aiden or Gardner. If that quarterback, whoever it may be, starts doing plays that cost them games, you're going to have a locker room that's going to want change, whether it's Gardner or Aiden. So I think if this pans out, you're going to have two guys that look great. Even if it pans out with Gardner failing and Aiden coming in, as long as one of them can get productive and get this team going in the right direction, everything's fine in hunky-dory and Raider Nation. But if it doesn't, there is no worse place to have a problem than in your marriage or at your quarterback position. Period. Kids today would just say facts. And that's the realistic thing. Raider Nation now goes into the season like they're from Missouri. Show me. Show me. You're not going to see any more from Aiden. Excuse me. You're not going to see any more from Gardner till we get to LA. Then the real clock begins to tick. Now, I want to remind you of one other thing. I am going to always revisit my season prediction after the 53-man roster is finally announced by Telesco. I told you that when the schedule came out, I predicted 10 wins. I will let you know what I think about that after the 53-man roster is projected. I did ask about Tommy Eichenberg. He's injured. That's why he didn't play, but he's there. He figures prominently in the Raiders' plans. He's going to be fine. I expect him, Bowers, and Devontae all back at practice on Tuesday. So a lot going on. We're going to have to wait and see how this all plays out. It's going to be fascinating. I think the season just became more interesting. I will tell you, and again, I'm not reading comments. I read some email, but I don't read comments. I am certain, because fan bases have a lot of similarities. There's some people that are thrilled. There's some people that are mad. And then in the middle is probably a lot of people that feel uncertain or like, oh my God, here we go, another year of this. Okay. My job is not to be your cheerleader or the person who depresses you. My job is to just bring you straight facts. The straight facts are I've seen the offense in camp and I like it. I like it. Do I have questions that Aiden's gunslinging isn't going to fit? Yes. And I'm going to tell you why. Not because I think not Gardner. Not because I think Gardner's a bad quarterback. I know how much this staff hates the unforced errors and screams ball security. So if Gardner's able to avoid that, then I think he's got a really good chance to be very dynamic. Very dynamic. I don't think the sky's falling because Gardner Minshew's the quarterback at all. Wonderful man and has shown a lot of ability. But part of that ability is the gunslinger, with a staff that doesn't want any risk. We're going to see. Then you have Aiden, who is more of the, I'm going to protect the football, I'm going to be ball security, yada, yada, yada. And when he gets in, what's he going to do? Now, I fully think, and I'm not rooting against Gardner, but it's hard for quarterbacks to stay healthy. I am sure Aiden O'Connell is going to get reps, and I will be shocked if he doesn't start some games this year. And oh, by the way, if Aiden had gotten the job, I would have said the same thing. I think right now, you are entitled to think whatever you want, but if I'm a Raider fan, I would not go to the extreme, the sky is falling. I would totally take I'm going to have to wait and see it. Okay, AP, okay, Tom Telesco, and okay, Luke Getsy. Okay. Prove me. Prove to me. Now I want to go back to Getsy because I know there are a lot of people that hated the Getsy hire because of Chicago. And if that had been his only career move, I would have hated it as well. But he was so well respected and did so many great things prior to Chicago. I don't have as many concerns about him. Now, if he comes here and it's as bad as Chicago, okay. Okay. Tom Telesco did a lot of really good things in LA. Some things that were bad were not his fault. Some of the things that were bad were 100% of his fault. But I've said this since the day they hired him. If he fails here, he's not going to get another shot as a general manager in the National Football League. It will not happen. So he's putting his career on the line here too. And Antonio Pierce, if he fails, he may get another shot as a head coach, but it's going to be a while. And three men whose careers are on the line, two of them in Getsy and Telesco that will never get a shot at the level they're at now if they fail, said, hey, listen, this is what we feel. Actually, all three of them did, but I mean, two of them who have a lot more to lose. Hey, this is what we feel. This is where we think this gives us the best chance. And I think you have to give that pause. My father used to teach that when somebody makes a decision, look at the person who has the most to lose as the one who very well may be who's right. Ziegler and McDaniels weren't. Mark Davis had the most to lose in hiring Antonio Pierce, but he did it. And Telesco and Getsy and Pierce picked Gardner. That's where you sit. I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic. I think there's a lot of reasons to be concerned. And I think there may be even some reasons to be a little worried. I'll tell you what the one to be worried about is. You're sitting here today, a couple of weeks away from the start of the season, one more preseason game, but none of the starters are playing. And you have volatility at quarterback. Nobody wants that. You want somebody to have defined it, and nobody did. And that means quarterback controversy. Now, it's not a controversy of who's going to start the year. But after 4 games, if Gardner hasn't done it, Raider Nation put the pressure on Mark Davis to hire Antonio Pierce. Raider Nation put the pressure on. And when Mark Davis, even though he had said during the season, Ziegler and McDaniels would be back to them, he made a change. If Gardner Minshew doesn't grab the reins or the wheel and get this team to a decent start, there's a controversy in the desert. And man, I've been here 5 years. Every year has a controversy. Let's hope for the sake of Raider Nation, and let's hope for the sake of all the good people in the building. Gardner Minshew's a really good guy. Aiden O'Connell, a good guy. Luke Getsy's a really good guy. Tom Telesco, super good guy. Antonio Pierce, one of the finest human beings you'll ever meet. I'm proud to call him a friend. So for this, and then Raider Nation, Dear Lord, for you guys and gals, when I say guys, I'm being inclusive, you folks, you deserve it. Enough's enough. You got a franchise that's told you, just win, baby. Just win, baby. Just win, baby. Just win, baby. Okay, it's time to win. I don't care if it's the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, Barney the dinosaur, Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, or a Cabbage Patch doll. Who's ever at quarterback, just win. You know what? That's where this franchise is right now. I'm rooting for them because they're good people and I root for good people. I'm rooting for Raider Nation. I don't want the consternation. And it's all up now to Luke Getsy, Tom Telesco, Antonio Pierce, Gardner Minshew, and Aiden O'Connell if Gardner doesn't do it. They may not know it. I don't think there's a quarterback controversy at this moment. But you have the breeding grounds of one. I have a friend who's a terrific weatherman. Great weatherman. I used to be a sports anchor and he was the weather guy. Terrific at what he does. And I remember one time listening to him do the news and he was talking about all of the ingredients for a tornado. Wasn't a tornado yet. It could be avoided, but that's where you get a tornado watch. Not out here in the desert, but where I'm from in the Midwest. There isn't a controversy for quarterback today, but all the ingredients are there. Now I think it's time for Raider Nation to come together. Don't be divided into camps. Don't be the Aiden camp, the Gardner camp, because the locker room isn't. I'm telling you that for a fact. The locker room's commitment is to winning. I say this all the time, and I'm not getting political. But one thing I love our country, but one thing I hate about our country is we have too many Republicans and too many Democrats. We need more people to be Americans and care about our country, to care about everybody in our country, to make decisions that are best for our country. I saw it with Derek Carr. Raider Nation was divided. You're able to do whatever you want, but I'm telling you, I don't think you have a quarterback controversy right now. You could, but you don't. And I don't think it's time now to tribalize and pick a guy. You should all come under the unity of silver and black. Let the thing play out. I don't believe, based on what I've seen on the defense in camp and what I've seen in the offense, that coaching wise, there's a reason to panic. I think you absolutely have a right to be concerned about quarterback play. I think you have that right. As an analyst that covers this team, I have it. But they've also been in preseason and everything else. Tap your brakes. You got Labor Day coming, another preseason game to watch a lot of the youngsters. And then you head to Allegiant South to take on the Bolts to start the season. We're going to blink and be in LA. And then it begins. The horse race. Is it another year of Raider controversy or turning of the corner? I think there's enough evidence to at least be neutral and say, okay, I think it could happen. Let's watch. But there are reasons for concern, and that's being realistic. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Again, tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, si.com/NFL/Raiders. I'm dropping my very important story, 10 facts I know about the Las Vegas Raiders after 4 weeks of training camp. I'll see you then. God bless you all. Thanks for listening.